this is a question, very interesting question from a person, Tine Stender, who had a massive or big tumor in her brain, and she still has a little part of that tumor left after it was surgically removed. And she now read my book, Cancer is Not a Disease, and she's wondering if it might grow bigger, if she has to go through more treatment. And she's also mentioning that her tumor was benign, and her question about that is whether the tumor reacts exactly like a malignant tumor. And there's obviously a difference between the two, it seems, and she's wondering if that would make any difference in the way to go about it, to treat it and to get rid of it. The answer is not as simple as it sounds. There is actually no real difference between malignant and benign tumors, except in the way they are active. The benign tumor is a more slow-growing, could be designated as a precancerous tumor, but it's not as active as a malignant tumor. A malignant tumor has a faster growth rate, and it is also spreading into the immediate environment more aggressively than a benign tumor can. A benign tumor is more or less encapsulated, and it's separating itself from the environment, and it doesn't partake of the nutrients from other cells that then would otherwise also turn cancerous. In a malignant tumor, you have a lot of blood supply that the body is generating in order, by creating new blood vessels, in order to make that tumor deal with the toxins in the environment and the threat that it perceives that could potentially destroy an organ structure. So the malignant tumor is actually not malignant. It's a term we give to it, thinking that it's bad, it's against us, but the immune system purposefully is supporting tumor growth, an aggressive tumor growth, in order to deal with a highly toxic environment. The environment around a benign tumor is not as toxic and detrimental, and therefore there is no requirement for an aggressive malignant growth spurt that is so typical for a malignant tumor. So there is really no truth to the idea that there is a difference between the two types of tumors. It's just that the range and the degree of activity in both types of tumors is very different. It is well known that benign tumors can become so-called malignant tumors and start invading the environment, sort of spreading from the defined limited area. Benign tumors are more likely to become encapsulated and inactive, whereas malignant tumors become overly active and again spread to the environment. It depends on what the state of the environment is. Once again, if there is a very toxic environment and the person continues to increase the toxicity, then a previously known or noticed benign tumor can become malignant. Vice versa, a malignant tumor can become encapsulated and inactive and basically benign, move into the benign state when the toxicity in the environment is less and less and ideally non-existent. So the pathways of tumor growth can go in both directions, either increase or decrease, and it depends on what we do. The cancer itself doesn't have a mind on its own. It completely depends on our thoughts, feelings, emotions, what we eat, whether we have enough vitamin D in our body through regular exposure to the sun, without sunscreens and sunglasses, something that I mentioned in my book, Heal Yourself with Sunlight. But it can, there are many other reasons. Your exposure to toxins, carcinogens through the food. There are lots of them in processed foods, in meat products, and in certain waters, of course, fluoride, which is also has carcinogenic effects, which is added to the drinking water. Additives in foods that are carcinogenic. There are already in any baby that is born in the United States hundreds and hundreds of recognized chemical toxins which are potentially carcinogenic, that means cancer producing. They are altering the genes to make these cells, the genetically mutated cells, capable of dealing with those toxins. So it's not that the cancer is then a negative reaction, but it is a positive reaction to an existing environmental pollution that otherwise could destroy the person prematurely. So the cancer is slowing down the process of degradation and weakening of the physiology that eventually could lead to the demise of the person. So in reality, cancer is not a disease. It is a strategic survival, protective, healing mechanism that sets in when the body doesn't have any other choice to deal with the overwhelming influx and ingestion or exposure to toxins and the weakening of the immune system that results from a lack of vitamin D, for example, or again exposure to toxins and overeating, failing digestive tract, which leads to massive amounts of toxins generated by bacteria when they decompose the undigested food. So it's important to take all those aspects into consideration, from mind, emotions, to the ingestion of food and the environment you live in. All those influence the behavior of the body, and therefore how the body is reacting to these influences in order to survive, including the generation of cancer as a survival mechanism, not as a disease. I hope this gives you some ideas. The book Cancer is Not a Disease goes very much into the depth of what cancer is and how we need to deal with it in a positive manner, not in a negative manner that includes fear, and we know that fear inhibits the healing ability of the body. Once we are afraid of the cancer, terrorized by it or terrified by it, then the body's immune system shuts down, the digestive functions shut down, the cardiovascular functions you start failing, and the body goes into a spiraling effect of you're feeling threatened, going through a chronic fight or flight response situation during which the body is incapable of healing itself and removing any accumulated toxins from the cell environment. So regardless of whether it's a benign or malignant tumor, we need to do the exact same thing in order to stop the escalation of toxicity. I recommend liver flushes to deal with most toxins in the body, and a changed diet and lifestyle to support the immune system so that the body can heal itself, which is not a great feat. It is actually quite simple, but we need to learn and know about the preconditions for healing to occur, which have clearly set out in that book and also in Timeless Secrets of Health and Rejuvenation. Thank you, and thank you for the great question because it highlights some of the great differences and misconceptions actually that are found in the medical model that is trying to make us believe that cancer has something to do that destroys our lives, whereas in fact it's the opposite, that the cancer actually tries to save our lives and enhance it, and to lead eventually to a resolution of an underlying condition that has been there for a long time, and the cancer is the perfect way to deal with it. Typically, if left alone and supported, if the body is supported and the cancer growth is actually supported, then the body will heal itself. It will heal up cancers, usually through an infection, a very strong infection, where TB bacteria that are entering the tumor cells will decompose the tumors, and then the person will disintegrate the tumor in sometimes within 24 to 36 hours. Unfortunately, modern medicine doesn't allow the patient to get to that point where the infection can eradicate the tumor, and the person can heal up quite easily. And I hope you'll find that encouraging, because I don't have any reason to believe that cancer is something we need to fight, but we need to support. Thank you.